All right, so the new year is very, very close, and you might actually even be watching this on the new year depending on how fast I get it edited, but I wanted to get one more build out in 2024, and it's going to be a split hand-wired keyboard. So we're going to jump in, and we're going to get started. This here is the Scotto 44. This is obviously the left half, then we have the right half over here. Now, the reason it's called the Scotto 44 is, as per usual with my boards, I'm a genius with naming, and it has 44 keys, so I'm calling it the 44, but I will have to look at that very soon because I'm starting to run out of like 44, 45 names, stuff like that. But for now, this is the Scotto 44. If I pop out the plate here, we can actually talk about this. Basically, all it is a very simple 3x6 layout, which is column staggered. So each column is 0.25 lower. You kind of sit on it like that. We have an inner key here, which is a 3U action button. You can program that to do whatever you really want. I'm probably going to just use it as escape over there. And then what we have on the left here is the Pico mount, which we'll talk about more later in the video because that's kind of what makes this build a little special and kind of unique because it's cool what I'm doing with that. But I'm going to take this, I'm going to just put it up here for now. And I'm going to grab the case and show you this. You can see it's kind of partially assembled. Just makes my life easier doing this ahead of time for these videos, especially with this one, since we have all this hot glue in here to hold these little breakout boards with a USB-C on. So those took quite a long time to actually get to dry and set everything because I had to like hold it in place to get it positioned right so it didn't like protrude out of the case too much. But what those are is that we have our interconnect on the right half here. And then on the left half here, we have our USB-C, which will route into the Pico because the Pico by default is actually a micro USB, which is kind of gross. So we're going to be using that as a USB-C there. So I'm going to put this down. I'm going to grab this and put it back in. And the final thing I want to mention at this point is that this build here is a 3x6. So you can see we have 6 columns here, technically 7 with this, but I'm just counting the main columns here as a 3x6 layout. This does also come in a 3x5 layout. So if this is the first time you're seeing a video from me, or maybe if you are a longtime viewer of mine and don't really know this, because I don't always like talk about it too much, is that in the description below there will be all the files for this if you want to build it yourself, completely free. So there'll be the firmware and also the case files so you can kind of modify or print it if you want yourself. But also, because all my projects are free, I did recently introduce channel subscriptions. So next to the subscribe button, subscribe if you're not subscribed. There is a way to kind of support me there if you want to do that. So just a quick mention of that. But with that, we're building the 3x6 today. And what I want to talk about next are, of course, the switches. So I'm going to grab my baggie of switches here. These are just some Kailh speed switches. We have the Kailh, I think they're bronze, and then we have Kailh pale blues in there. Reason for the mix here is that I basically had only enough of the bronze to kind of fill out the main keys here. And I'm going to put the blues on this switch and this switch just so I can kind of fill the board up with similar switches. Only difference between these being that these are a little heavier, so that's why I'm going to put them on less used keys. But with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and pop those in, and I'll be back after to talk about the columns. So as you can see, we have all the switches in both halves here other than this one here, because I wanted to actually mention the stabilize key. You can see we have our stabilizer cut out as you'd expect. And what I actually did here is, because it's a 3U stabilizer, is I made my own stabilizer wire instead of having to purchase them and have like another thing on hand. Basically, all this is just some 14 gauge copper wire that I straightened and then bent to the length. So you can see those 2 notches on the top there. Basically sits right in between there, and that works perfectly for a stabilizer wire. Now, yet again, I want to mention this is 14 gauge. Not 16 gauge like I used for the actual Matrix. It's just a little bit thicker and it matches closer to the stabilizer wire, which I think stabilizer wire is about 15 gauge. So it's a little bit in between the 14 and 16, but the 14 works perfectly. So that's what I've been using. Now, what I have to do next, of course, for this build is, of course, put that stabilizer wire in, but we also have to do the columns. So if I flip this over, we're going to route all the columns first or wire them up. So these are the vertical ones here. I just pre-cut a bunch of copper wire before this video. I do that for pretty much all my builds, just makes life easier when doing them. But I have these all pre-cut so they'll fit perfectly where they need to sit on the build here. So I'm gonna go through and do the columns now. There are both halves with the columns all wired up. As you can see here, we have our columns wired nicely to that copper wire with a big glob of solder there. And something I'm asked very, very often is, are these builds strong enough to withstand daily use? Now, obviously they are, because I've been using mine for the past 2.5 years, pretty much exclusively hand-wired boards. But the reason for that is that, first of all, this is literally metal. When you're soldering stuff that is metal connected to metal, if you solder it properly where you get these nice, clean, shiny joints, there's not going to be an issue there where these crack off. Now, there are exceptions to that if you're using, like, say, lead-free solder, which I always recommend against. 6337 is what I use here. It gives a very nice solid joint. But then also I use 16 gauge copper wire here, which adds not only strength, but it also adds a bit of weight to the board, so it feels a little bit more premium. By doing that, you get a very nice solid connection there, and it lasts a long time. But with that, I'm going to put this down, and then I'm going to grab over here. I have a bunch of these copper wires that I prepared ahead of time for the rows, so these will kind of just sit on here as such. As you can see right there, we'll wire the diodes from this pin onto this. And then the other thing that you have to keep in mind with this is that, of course, you have to use some heat shrink tubing to insulate this from that. I always start with the top one because you don't actually need to insulate the top one. You just need to insulate the ones that are going to be crossing over these. So I'm just going to go through now and solder up the rows, where after we can come back and do the wiring to the controller, then we'll have a functioning board. So I'll be back after that. So here are both halves of the matrix all wired up. If we look here on the left half, this is the left half here, you can see that we have our nice insulation insulating the row from the column on all these. We have our diodes feeding into the row wire. On the 3U key, we're kind of doing this like weird little curvature thing there. Now's the point though where I want to talk about the really cool thing with this board, which is this section over here on both halves of the board, which is for a Raspberry Pi Pico. So if I grab this over here, this is a Pi Pico. It's made by Raspberry Pi. It's an RP2040 controller. I normally use like clones of these in different variants that kind of use the same pinout, but this is the official Raspberry Pi controller. It's that green look, which looks nice. But up top, if we look, it has my biggest issue with the Pi Pico. What stops me from actually using this is that it is a micro USB. Now, luckily, what Raspberry Pi did is they actually gave us, if we look on the back here, these little things called test points. Now, these three down here are not actually used for this. Up top, basically, one of these is data minus, one of these is data plus, and then one is ground, I believe. And then we have the V bus on the left here for the actual voltage. And what you can do with those is, if we look at our case, we have, like I mentioned at the beginning, these little USB-C breakouts here, which of course has a ground, a data minus, data plus, and then a voltage, which you can actually wire up to the controller there to convert this into USB-C. The thing with that is that, of course, we have to have a way to access those. So if we look on the back of the board here on the plate, when we put that there, it pretty much perfectly aligns. We have those screw holes that align to kind of mount it in place. It will just feed the wires down there. Now, the other thing with this too is that we have all our pins here, of course. We're going to be just using some pin headers to kind of solder those onto here so they protrude upwards out of the plate. If you can kind of see that to get an idea. That way we can wire all our actual wires to it. But what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go through, I'm going to get these controllers mounted so they're ready to wire the actual matrix. Then we'll talk about wiring the matrix into the board. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to solder these. I'll be back after that's done. So here is one half of the board. As you can see, we have all the pins from the Pico going into the USB-C port. This does work. I did test it. It does pop up as you'd expect. Now, the only thing left to do is if I actually put this down here and grab the other half and show you that one's all wired. So I have to actually wire in this USB-C for the interconnect into the pins on here. Basically, the way the interconnect works is we're just using 3 pins on it for serial communication. So we have ground on the left here. The right one here is voltage, and then we'll use one of the pins in the middle to send it to a GPIO pin on the controller, which will give it serial communication between the halves. We'll do the same exact thing on both halves. And then also I have to wire in the matrix into the controller. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to do that now. I'll see if I can record the whole process because my recorder is almost out of memory, so I might have like a cut in there or something, or we'll just cut to me having it fully wired. I'll be back after where we'll have a fully completed board that hopefully we could type on. So let's wire it now. So this is the left half of the board wired up. I was correct in that my recorder is very, very close to running out of space, so I only recorded the one half getting wired. It's exactly the same on the other half. You just wire to the same pins on there, which I believe, if we look at it, I think they're going to be reversed technically. Yes, because the matrix is on the other side, so I'm going to have to wire them that way. On my blog, there'll be like a breakdown of where everything goes, so you can see that if you are going to build it yourself. But this is what it looks like wired up. We have our 3 wires here for our serial communication. So we have the black and red, of course, is voltage and ground, and then this white one is the data pin, which can go to data minus or data plus. The only important part being there is that whatever pin you choose on here, if you choose, say, this one here, which is a data minus, I believe, and that's data plus, that it's the same on both halves. So that way they actually link up and communicate between each other. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually off camera do the other half of the board now. And then the next time you see me, I will have the board fully wired up and then we'll be ready to assemble it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Here's the fully wired up board. We have our interconnects right here all wired up. We have our USB-C replacements for the test points on the Picos here. I'm not going to move this too much right now because it is a little bit fragile since everything's like just kind of holding together right now. But the one thing I want to mention right now is that it's probably been about 2.5 hours since I was last recording anything with the hardware on this, because the firmware on this board was really challenging to get working. And that was because of these inner columns here. I'm not going to go into detail on it. You can find the firmware down below if you want to look at it. But it was just really annoying because these were kind of messing me up and everything was flipped and it was a process. But the board is fully working now. Both halves are working as expected. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually just going to assemble the board and then I'll show you the keycaps afterwards, because those are kind of cool and what ties this whole entire board together in a kind of unique look. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take the board, I'm going to assemble it, I'll be back after that. So there we have both halves fully assembled into the case here, and I didn't actually mention about this filament color. It's just like navy gray R3D filament. It was like super cheap too. It was like $12 or something. I bought it like a year ago, and I finally am getting around to using it. I really like it. It looks really nice. So you can see we have our ports up top. We have all our switches there, our Pico on the right, and it kind of looks nice. So what I have to do now, of course, is the keycaps. So if I actually grab these over here, you can see that I printed them in the exact same color and they're actually blanks. Yet again, these are available on the repo. These are my Scotto cap scoops, so these are available for free if you want to print them and print them for your boards. But what we have are just a bunch of blank keycaps here, and drop them all over the place, but you can see they look kind of nice. That's actually a homing bump one I was experimenting with. But these will just kind of pop onto the board. It'll give it this really cool look. So I'm going to go through and pop all the keycaps on now. So there's the board with all the keycaps on it. If we pick it up here, you can see we have the homing key here. I love these keycaps that I designed. They're honestly, I say this every time I use them, that they're the best thing I ever designed because I use them on all my boards and it saves me a ton of money not having to buy keycap sets. And I can match them exactly my board, like this one here, where it kind of just matches all together and looks really great. But what I want to talk about now is this over here, because we've already talked about the Pico, why I used it and all that. But you probably noticed that I have these standoffs on, and the reason for that is, well, it's a little bit ugly not having anything over there. So if I put that down and actually grab over here, I have these 2 little piece of 1mm thick plexiglass plates that I cut out and drilled and matched everything to this. There's like a template when you download the files for this that allows you to kind of cut your plexiglass. And I recommend going with 1mm because it's a lot easier to cut. But these I'm just going to take and pop onto both halves really quick. So there it is, fully completed now, and if I hold this up, you can see we have this nice cover covering the Pico, kind of protecting and also tying the entire build together. So we have the right half, of course, have the left half. It looks really nice. If I actually put these down and I just grab, I'm using a USB-C cable from my iPad. It's braided, so it kind of looks nice, but I will eventually change it into the custom, which you might have saw this when I was time-lapsing through that. I was messing around with like some braided wire stuff. Maybe I'll do something with that. I'll probably live stream messing around with that one day, but for now, we're just gonna kind of use this to do a really nasty looking wire in the middle. But there we go, we have the board. You can hear super clicky. So what we're gonna do now, of course, is a typing test, and then after that we'll finally be done with this video because we're going on about 8.5 hours now. Long video. This actually took a lot longer to build than usual. So yeah, with that, we're gonna go type on it now. So yeah, that's the Scotto 44. I think it was a very complicated build compared to usual because we're going on about 9 hours now for a split keyboard. I did learn some stuff today that should hopefully make it easier the next time I do a split board, but I don't have much else to say here other than if we just take a look at it again, the matching keycaps looks really nice. The Pico cover I think is a good touch without just having a blank there. I like that I did that. And then also if we look on the side profile, you can see that these are actually convex here and then these are concave, so it's kind of a difference in the keycaps there, which makes it a little bit more comfortable to type on, but it looks really nice. It's a really big board here. As I did mention, all the files are available in the description below if you want to download and build this yourself. The firmware is also on there, which will be pre-compiled, or you can just modify it if you want. This way you won't have to deal with the firmware issue like I had. But with that, I don't have much else to say here other than comment, rate, subscribe as per usual. Thanks for watching, and Happy New Year, because this is probably coming out on New Year's at this point. I have like 2 days to get this edited, and I don't know if I'm even going to edit anything today while recording because I'm so deep into the actual filming process. So with that, I'm rambling now. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.